we're previewing Hollywood's biggest night by talking about at least one movie that I don't think was nominated for anything. But definitely a group of award seasons films. I've labeled this The Road to the OSKIES Part 3, kind of going off of Killer New Cinema, where we talked about Killers of the Flower Moon, The Killer, Anatomy of a Fall, The Holdovers, and one or two other movies. And then we did May, December, and Saltburn recently, with a couple other movies. And now we're doing this one. And we'll look in the description if you're curious about what movies we're talking about. I'm not going to shout them all out here. I'm your Wiki Game Master, Lloyd Crews. Edwin Gomez, unfortunately, had a plane crash in the Andes, and cannot make it tonight. The Joey Chestnut of talking about movies, but actually joining us.
Hey guys, it's Brian. How are you?
Hey, I'm Scott. Good to see you. Thanks for joining us.
And returning after a long absence.
Hey, Alex back here.
Thanks for joining, everyone. I just want to say thank you to Marina Sakamoto and her band Shunkin for the use of the song Curse off of the EP She Nods for our opening. It's been 91 days since the strike ended and the AMPTP still sucks. Yeah, let's talk about... I'm going to change my background and you guys tell me which movie we're talking about.
Poor Things.
Yeah, we're talking about Poor Things. Brian or Scott, which one of you wants to summarize Poor Things?
I will let Brian do that. I mean, he's seen it more than any of us.
I've seen it quite a few times. Poor Things is such a wild ride. I mean, it's basically a film about man. It's tough. So you don't think okay? That's not a spoiler thing. Yeah, that's right. I got to figure because it's just a tough thing to say. But basically, so Emma Stone plays an amazing human being who has this learning ability, basically because, well, she had a baby brain put in her head and has to learn how to be a person, but is a grown adult outside, but a child on the inside. And then essentially has a whole coming of age life and learning about the world. She meets a lot of interesting people and goes on adventures around the world. And it's one of the most interesting, like, self-discovery films I think I've ever seen, and really love the way everything played out. I think Yorgos Lanthimos is such an incredible filmmaker. And this one I think is without a doubt my favorite that he's done so far.
Scott. Calling on you. What do you think?
About the
Poor
movie?
Things, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
No, about something else.
Brian's description. Yeah, what do I think? I liked it a lot. Yeah, I thought it looked amazing. I thought Emma Stone's performance was phenomenal. A very difficult performance to pull off, and she really walked that rope well, as did everybody. Mark Ruffalo was amazing in this movie.
Good.
He was so good. Like, he's not better than Emma Stone, but I feel like we're not talking about him just because she is that good, but like, he's amazing in this film. And it's great to see him back in like weirdo Mark Ruffalo mode, because like before he went into the MCU, he was a character actor. And like, you look at like what he was in 2004, it was like he would just pop up in Collateral, but he'd also be in Eternal Sunshine, and like he had a couple other like movies like that where like he had a full spectrum of characters. And
even through that, this is like a little unexpected. Like, he is he's excellent in this movie. He's my big headline for the movie, is how good he is.
He can act, man. I haven't seen Poor Things, but I just wanted to shout out his performance in Derek C. Francis' show. I Know This Much Is True. He gives a stunning performance.
Okay. That came out, that was a recent show, right?
Yeah, that came out during the lockdown, I think 2020.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah, I've always known he can act. Like, I mean, he's even great in, the MCU. He makes
Oh, sure.
Banner and stuff. So, but yeah, this performance, he just, it is slightly unexpected. It's just like I don't know if I would compare it to any other performance he's done.
You're just reminded of the range by far with this because of what he's doing.
Willem Dafoe is phenomenal too. Playing like a very Willem Dafoe character. His character actually reminds me of his performance in The Florida Project.
Okay.
Just fatherly, but also but a bit more sinister.
Yeah.
I love the scene in The Florida Project when that old guy who's clearly there to like creep on the kids shows up, and Defoe just kind of like, "Oh, you're here to get some soda? Sure. Why don't we get you a soda?" And he like puts the dollar in, and he gives me the soda, and then he just smacks it out of his hand. It's like, "Get the fuck out!" It's like, "There's Defoe. That's it." Because most of the movie is just like very nice down. Like, yeah, he still got that.
He's got that big cock somewhere.
Yeah. So somewhat of the reverse of that. He kind of went on a journey too. Well, not to get too much into it, just a discovery of like.
Yeah,
absolutely.
But yeah, those three performances were like,
and then I do have to give it up to Remy Youssef as well. I thought he was really good as far as like, because he carried a lot of the beginning and end obviously, and it was sort of like it was interesting the way when he was on as a main, he was so good and fit right in with everybody else. And I think that was the thing, is everybody who had a little role in it was really good at what they did. I mean, Gerard Carmichael's stuff was really good. I enjoyed the adventure every single moment of it, but I think the biggest thing
go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to say, the biggest thing with me with this film, and I think what reason I love so much of it is, and it kind of leans into the fatherly figure that you're talking about, because when you're talking about a film where it's like you have an adult woman but a brain of a baby and an infant, there could be some weird categories that you could jump into with like sexual stuff that like another film would do it kind of gross. And they never did it. Like, it was very established well off that like Willem Dafoe is like the fatherly figure, and he does go into an amazing explanation of why he actually can't be sexual as well. But you never feel like, okay, this is going to like get into creepy territory. Mark Ruffalo has a moment when he first meets Bella, that kind of can be questionable, but it really builds into what his character is, and it ends up being really good because of how his dynamic changes through the film. And I think that's the biggest thing. It's a very sexual film, but none of it was on terms other than Bella Baxter. And I thought that's what was really cool about it, is it was like everything she wanted to do, she's exploring life for the first time and did it completely on her terms. And it really felt that with her performance, and just Yorgos' directing as well. Just, you felt that the entire journey.
That was one thing I was really impressed with the movie, is that for how sexual it was, it never felt that we were watching through the male gaze.
Right.
It was not necessarily erotic. It was just her going on her sexual discovery, and that meant people were undressed. But it never felt exploitative. Like, the thing that Ruffalo's character does, it does work, but that's more his character. He's a creep. He, like, his whole journey is he liked her before she started reading, getting ideas. When she was just young and naive, and just discovering her sexuality. It would make sense that he would do that.
Where it was great to have Remy, who just basically was the polar opposite. He's like, I see this person, I respect you. Like, he was the polar opposite of Mark Ruffalo, which was great, because again, having him in the beginning and the end with these formidable beginnings where he really got that connection with her. And then at the end, after she had gone on the discovery and realized her life, it felt like, earned to then have them kind of back together in a scenario. I don't want to spoil too much, I guess, but
go ahead.
Well, I hate to derail the conversation and be the spoil sport, because I feel really bad, because I know how much Brian likes this movie, and he just like is so glowing about it, and so I hate to be the guy who's like, actually it didn't really work for me, kind of because of what you guys are talking about. Like, I don't.
Film's film though,
Yeah. I don't think the movie's exploitative. Like, that I don't think. I think I've seen a lot of people online try to remove the metaphor from it and try to be like, oh, it's literally about a baby getting fucked. And I'm like, well, not really. Like, it's like it's using like this as like a metaphor, because it's Frankenstein kind of, but it's actually almost more
absolutely.
It's almost more Pinocchio, in the sense of like she's going on this like journey and becoming like more and more of a real of a real person and like accumulating these experiences.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't that I was like, oh, you know, like, I mean, you guys know me. It's not like I was sitting there like, oh, like I can't believe what I'm seeing.
Sure.
I think I'm more just, I thought the movie, by being framed so much, by being, by its default, by the fact that it's a movie made by a lot of dudes mostly, other than Emma Stone, producer and star, it came across like weird that the movie was so framed around her sexuality, that was such a big part of it in a kind of third wave lib femme sort of way that I didn't really dig, and it kind of bounced me off of the film as it went on, and I was like, oh, okay, that's going to be this big of a part of it. But yeah.
No, yeah, I mean, I get it because you guys know me. I mean, there's certain things that I'll see too. Even when we were watching that De Palma movie the other week, that one kind of got me, and I didn't like it because of some of that male gaze and what that stuff does. That for whatever reason, I don't know if it is because of, you know, Emma being a producer and really, I mean, I guess like I think I was telling you guys earlier that I read something where she basically bothered Yorgos so much early on in the production that he just made her a producer because he was like, look, enough, just take reign on this. And, you know, and to me, it felt, I saw that, you know, and I don't know, it resonated really well with me. I get what you're saying because it is like, I will be honest, it does linger a little longer than I would love it to in that middle. But I don't know, for me, I just kind of kept going on the ride of like what she needed for her next step of the adventure. And that's where it just resonated. But you're not off on what you're saying because I think that's other people's reaction too.
And yeah, I definitely it's no like individual scene that I think is gross or like exploitative. Like I don't think any of the actual filming was exploitative. I think it's Emma Stone. Like she's not gonna. You can't really. I mean, you could, I guess, conceivably, but like you're not gonna be able to exploit Emma Stone the way you would like an unnamed actress or something.
You want to be a star, don't you?
Yeah, she is. She already is like a big A-list, essentially.
Oscar winner, A-list.
Yeah. And so I think it was more that I didn't like the narrative framing of how focused it was on that. And
I get that. I'm somewhere in between. I certainly didn't like it as much as Brian. Like when I went to go see it the second time, like someone's like, "Did you like it more?" I was like, "No." Like it didn't like having seen it the second time after seeing it the first time. I was like, "Yeah, I think I got all I got." Like
yeah,
I wanted to see it again, but like I was like, I could. Some time could pass until, you know, like if I go through all his movies or whatever.
Yeah, more than anything, I thought on rewatch, I felt a little like I feel about some of the later Wes Anderson stuff, where I'm like, I get this, I get why this is like really appealing for the people that it's hitting for, but I was like, this isn't for me. I think.
Yeah. No, I think that's what it is. Like I recognize what it is. That like I mean, when Connor, you and I first saw it the first time, and I had a smile on my face from frame one. There was something about it. It just resonated. The music being so in the mix and it's loud. I don't know. There was just something, it did everything to me where there was never a point in the film where I'm like, oh, that's right, we have to get through this part to get to that part. It was just an experience. And I haven't had a film like that hit me in a little while. And, you know, those are the ones that I almost like, you almost do the fanboy thing where you kind of like, I'm going to forget about like film knowledge and not cut it down that way because of how much it just did for me overall. But I get it, what you're saying completely.
And to be clear, I still liked it well enough. I didn't think it was like bad or anything. I would recommend it if somebody was like into it. I probably like all of the other Yorgos movies I've seen more. Especially I just watched Killing of a Sacred Deer, and I really...
So good. I rewatched it recently too. It's so good. That's my second favorite probably of his.
And to be fair, I think if this swept the Oscars, I'd be okay with it. Because like even if I have issues with the writing and directing, there's also a lot of stuff in the writing and directing that I think is great. And if it won picture, it'd be funny to see like how conservatives like freak out about it. I bet maybe it just wouldn't register. I think I don't think it would.
No, it would. It would in the same way that Parasite was. You know, when it won, where it's just like, oh, how could this foreign film win a, you know, it's the same.
Yeah,
like,
I don't know if
generic.
it would hit on the same level as Parasite just because of it's white people. You know, so I think that might prevent it, but like it would still be funny to see like the pearl clutching that presumably would entail.
Sure.
But yeah.
And it's also like it does a lot more like body horror stuff that I wasn't ready for. That I think I like that too. Is it hit a lot of different tones that were like,
Yeah,
kind of jarring, but worked really well for me, anyways. But I could see like more of a casual viewer just going like, "Holy shit, this guy's pretty wild."
Yeah, I wish I liked it more. Almost, you know what I mean? Maybe. Yeah,
I hear what you're saying. Yeah, I've had movies like that. I will say, and this, I guess we could put spoilers now, although there's not like spoilers.
yeah.
It's not a very plot-driven movie.
I'll put up spoilers.
But, yeah. The first time I saw it, when we get to the part where she comes back and she's about ready to marry Rami, and then the husband shows up. I was actually kind of like, at the first time, just because I was like, okay, I was kind of ready for the whole thing to be done. And then she's like, oh, we're going to go on another thing. And I had no idea how long this was going to be. Seeing it the second time, it does like, okay, it's not that long. And also I think I was talking to this about somebody and it's like, I think the problem was that the scene when she was a sex worker, to me personally, went on a little bit too long.
Yeah.
And just like, I was just like, okay, because I knew it wasn't going to end with her being with the husband. Like, I just knew that wasn't going to be the case.
Yeah.
Sure. So I just necessarily didn't need it, but going back to see it, like, and like her finding her identity, like I said, it worked maybe a little better the second time just because I knew what to expect. But I think it does overstay its welcome slightly. Like it just But overall, really, really a big fan of it.
Yeah, and I dug that last section only for the reason of like it felt like a final, because to me the whole film felt like a weird test that she was doing for herself, where it's like learn, and it was sort of that final like, all right, I'm gonna check in and like if I had a husband, I got to know what the fuck is up. And Christopher Abbott played the husband, by the way, and he was fantastic. Christopher Abbott is great in everything he does. And I don't know, I just really that kind of was effective enough for me. But I know what you mean with especially if you were kind of out a little bit with that whole thing. It's kind of like, okay, I got to go back in, But for me, it obviously it was not. I didn't have that same experience. So
if you were loving it, it was like, here we go. Give me the
it was just another beat that
I could watch it for another 6 hours, as you did.
Yeah.
Yes, I've seen it. I've seen it 6 times. So
so like 12, was that like 13 hours, 14 hours, something like that?
Yeah, it's a lot of hours, and they all been on a big screen. Thank God for A-list.
I think I want to switch over to Zone of Interest if we're okay with that.
Sweet. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm gonna take off the spoilers. I guess I ruined. I was gonna do a bit. And this is like really kind of, and I like quickly realized how distasteful this was, but I was going to do a bit where all my backgrounds were screen caps from the first Spider-Man movie. And then I was like, okay, what can I use for Zone of Interest? And then I started thinking about the scene where they create the Green Goblin. I was like, you know what? I'm not going to do this bit actually.
Yeah. I mean, that's a good level of self-awareness where, you had to check. And
instead I have this image I found online, quotes and leadership lessons from Wonka.
Yeah, that works. Good. That's a good intro to Zone of Interest for sure.
Alex, why don't you tell us? Don't just tell us about Zone of Interest, but tell us about your relationship with Zone of Interest as a projectionist.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm a projectionist at the Vista Theater, and we had the Zone of Interest. We had the Zone of Interest for a very long time, nearly 2 months. It wasn't originally going to be that long, but it kept crushing. People kept like selling the auditorium, so we extended it a few weeks and then a few weeks more. So I've seen it a lot of times. Probably.
Do you know how many by chance?
There were I log it on Letterboxd every time I watch it from the booth, but for the end of January, I was present while we were screening it still, but I was working on print inspections for all the IB Tech films that are playing this month, so I didn't really count those because I wasn't really looking at the screen. So like my Letterboxd count is probably like around 30. The times I've been in the booth for it is probably around maybe like 40 or even closer to 50. But anyway, the movie doesn't really have much of like typical narrative elements. There isn't really a plot so much as like history that we know about has happened.
Weirdly, there kind of is a little bit of a plot, but we can get to that.
Yeah, it's not like really that focused on. It's like the story is framed around this family. The father and mother are the father's a like soldier in the or he's like an officer in the SS, and he's like a high-ranking officer. He has this family that has this house in Auschwitz, outside of Auschwitz, just on the other side of the wall, and it's like a really idyllic kind of like beautiful garden house. If it wasn't for Auschwitz, it would be like this really like beautiful paradise that people would probably envy. But then, of course, there is the wrinkle, I guess you could understate it to say that it is just on the other side of the
little
wall. You can actually like
this location's little peccadillo.
Yeah. You can actually see the camp like from the other side of the wall. There are scenes where at night, it's quiet enough you can hear like the screams of the people being murdered on the other side. So it all takes place around this, moment in history. There's a slight plot involving the Rudolf Haas, that was a real person. That's the father of the family. Him like working on this project, and like getting promoted, and he has to move to another part of Germany. His wife doesn't like it, and she wants to stay in Auschwitz. But other than that, I mean, that isn't really that focused on. Most of the movie is just kind of watching them live their lives. So, like I said, there's not really much of a plot, not much like character, like growth or development. There's not a ton of I mean, there's dialogue. It's not like devoid of dialogue, but it's pretty minimal. It's pretty minimal, basically, in all of its filmic elements. Its cinematography is very minimal. They shot it with hidden cameras around the house. There was no like crew around when they were filming. It was just kind of just kind of the cameras were on like all day, and they just lived in the house. So it has this really kind of uncinematic aesthetic to it as well. There's like some shots where it's like fisheye lens, like almost like skate video kind of cameras.
Well, and then there's whenever the nighttime scenes happen, it uses this really like digital like filter sort of thing to like light the nighttime scenes.
Yeah, like infrared, like night vision kind of stuff. And I guess that would be the other like sort of plot of the movie, is that there's this little girl who like leaves food for the Jewish laborers around Auschwitz. But that's also not really like the focus of the movie.
Yeah, the family, just to butt in here, the family stuff is weirdly like probably a little more core to like the structure of the film in certain ways, like this family drama, and it's structured in a way where you almost like obviously like you're thinking like, oh, these are Nazis. This is the guy who does Auschwitz. But it's also like framing it in a way, for me at least, where I was like, man, that is bullshit that he can't like just get a promotion, like and which I think is kind of the point of the movie.
Well, that's the thing. They frame it in such a way where it's adjacent to the atrocity, and the entire time you're just living in this like, it's almost like fine that the family stuff is kind of basic, other than the fact that again you're like, oh, husband works directly for Hitler. We as a viewer, you're just kind of watching it without the knowledge essentially, and it is just a very typical family dynamic of like, oh, I got a new job, I got to go here. Well, I don't want to leave the house, and that's such a basic conflict. Yeah. And then it's like the focus obviously on being around everything else, and for me and for everybody else, I'm sure the sound design in this thing was insane, just because that really felt, it was so interesting to like have it panned, left where it would be these like gunshots, and then it was juxtaposed with like birds and the butterfly. Everything was really like these sweet sounds with really awful sounds.
Yeah.
And that was the jarring thing for me that really brought me into what we were doing.
Yeah, like 90% of the movie, for people who haven't seen it, is like the like Mrs. like the mom and dad like having a conversation of like, do you think that my mom will like staying in this room, or we should change the sheets? And then in the background you can hear like the horrible sounds of Auschwitz. That's like most of the movie.
I mean, even the little kid toward the end where he sees something he doesn't want to see looking out the bedroom window because he actually is seeing stuff, like has it in his brain where he just goes like, nope, I'm going to forget about this, go back to playing toys. And that's, I think, the really interesting thing about again, adjacent to atrocity. It was so, I've never seen a take on it. Obviously, we've all seen Schindler's List and a lot of that point of view where you're right in it and you're seeing that. But there was something obviously about what you don't see. I mean, obviously it happens a lot in horror and different films. What you don't see and what you're letting your brain do is sometimes the most effective. this was clearly that case, because we as the viewers obviously know what this is doing, but to see it play out through the eyes of like, oh, it's just, I think the wife, she was living at one point in the backyard with some friends. They were talking about the house, and they referred to everything on the other side of the wall as, oh, just some of those Jew things, and just the weird casual elements to it. It was just really strange. Again, like we as the viewers knowing what we're watching, but to see them kind of just like, we're just in our day to day. It's just interesting.
Yeah, well, the thing that I thought was so fascinating was that like we were horrified by it and stuff, and it what like they also knew what was happening.
Yeah.
Is the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like it wasn't that like oh, we know because we know what happened in Auschwitz. They were quite aware of what those sounds were, and like the character I thought was so interesting was the mother, who when she came to visit, like she even says like, there's a Jew in the house, so like she bought what like Hitler was selling, like she was on board, but to actually smell it, to actually hear it at night, to be see like
awoken by the bright red light of furnaces at night. Yeah.
Exactly. Like the oh, that was a little too much for her. And like the reality of what it was, like this mindset. But the fact that like they just the family, like they all felt like the normal family, but what really was, it wasn't about them like not being aware. It was about them living with it. Just like simply accepting it and like somewhat disassociating themselves. But I thought there were two different moments when each character kind of like showed that like they know what's going on. It's when the I guess this is spoilers, but just like after the mom leaves,
I'll put up spoilers.
After the mother leaves, when the Jewish girl had put out 2 plates, and like the wife is just like, oh, are you making fun of me? Right. Yeah, of course not. And then she just says like, I could have your husband spread your ashes down the river. And she was just like, just so you know, I am a Nazi. Yeah. Like, so we're very clear. Right. And then when he later makes that joke about like, I kind of wish I could gas all of that. So like he knows what's going. And immediately she's just kind of like, she's like, oh, again, like not she like laugh at that, but like just the fact that he like was able to say that, it was like, okay, so he knows what's happening. So you know,
and it's that disassociation where they realize like, hey, we're the good guys. We know what's right, but doing whatever they can do as a human being to be like, I'm going to even ignore this or act like it's not happening just to get through whatever they're doing. But they clearly they know it all. Yeah, and it's, you know.
And so, Alex, how was your brain after experiencing this 40 to 50 times?
Well, you know, this was a really interesting one to see so many times because, you know, there are other movies that I've seen, like we did Oppenheimer, and like I watched that a lot of times now as well. And like I had a blast every time watching it, even though it's like, that's a sad movie too. But The Zone of Interest for me was a successful like academic statement. Like it helps foster the kind of like discussion that we're having now. And like it's totally, I think it sets out exactly kind of what Glazer wanted it to. It's just that for me, when like I was actually watching the movie, I wasn't really that engaged with it, like even the first time. And then obviously on subsequent viewings from the booth, I was kind of just more looking at like technical parts of the movie, admiring, or just kind of analyzing like, oh, how did they do this? Was this made? And kind of looking for the brush strokes rather than like really meaningfully engaging with it on an intellectual level. So like I said, it's sort of a weird one to see like over and over and over and over again. I think it's more successful when we have these kinds of discussions about it versus when I'm actually just kind of watching it and not really feeling much, because I mean, I know what the Holocaust is. I knew what it was before I watched the movie. Like, obviously we all find it horrifying.
That might be
but
like,
see, even that though, I was sorry, but like, obviously we all find it horrifying. Like, I don't know, I'm talking present day. We don't, you know, like
sure. I meant like us.
Well, like it's just something that obviously, you know, it's just like it's not always as obvious as you think.
Well, I think that is like, so like to be clear, I think we released, I think we all had ones like lists on social media of our favorite movies of the year, and if I had seen this before that, I would have put this on that list. It would have been it would have been at the bottom of the list, to be fair, but it would have been on there. And I think my one issue with the film is kind of what Alex is saying, which is that because how wide of an audience is this movie going to have? Like, is this like the people who don't understand? Because the movie is about the banality of evil, essentially, and like showing us that these, screaming in a way, like in a quiet, minimalist way, like shaking us, like, don't you understand? Like the Nazis thought they were normal people, in a way. And I will say the one thing is I wish. I'm thankful it's not like I'm thankful it's like an hour 40 minutes. You know what I mean? Like if this movie had been 3 hours long, I think it would be like
that would have been too much.
It would have been too much. It almost could have been shorter. Like it could have been like an 80-minute movie, considering that it is a movie trying to make like this one big specific point. And I guess there is some nuance in the movie, and we can talk about that ending. I do have the spoiler tags up, but I do think it's one of the best films of the year, but I also kind of agree with what Alex is saying, where it's like, it's a hard movie to like say like, oh, this is like, it is a great movie, but it's I don't even know if it's a great movie. And like I really loved Under the Skin, which we watched in theaters last year, Jonathan Glaser's previous film, and that I think is like a capital G great movie. And this is like a great movie in the sense of like it should be shown to everybody who voted for Trump or something. But outside of that, like
that's the thing, and that's the opposite of the target audience, obviously, because it's not going to be. I mean, it is that film that it's going to be for more film buff people. I mean, I think in my screening there was a couple behind me that after it ended, they were sort of just, you could tell the disappointment of being like, what is this? Like not getting it, and just sort of, oh, I heard good things or whatever, and that's definitely going to happen. I mean, you take Under the Skin, obviously, and this film somehow is way more accessible than Under the Skin. And even still, we're having this discussion about it. Under the Skin, you're just like, I don't know what the fuck I'm watching. Yeah. Fantastic, but whereas this, you're kind of knowing what's playing out, obviously. But I
thought Alex said it right. It's a great intellectual like exercise, and sort of like because when I saw it, I liked it. I just was fascinated, like the cinematic like statement he made. But I also feel like I don't need to see it again. Not that I don't want to, but like not that I would never see it again, but like I was like, good, there's some movies like oh man, like, but this one was like, I got it.
For a movie that is as minimal as it is, it's not boring. Like it's consistently interesting, and I do really like. I thought that ending was pretty great, and the ending is kind of. For people, this is real. This is genuine spoilers. We have the spoilers tagged up for a minute, but this is like if you want to see this movie, like skip to the next movie we talk about, or mute us until you see the spoiler tags go off. At the end of the movie, as the Hess or whatever his name is it Hess or Haas?
Rudolf Haas.
Haas. Sorry to any Hesses out there. As Haas is leaving this building where he's like, doing all of his Nazi concentration camp business, he hears like some sort of sound or something, and he looks down a dark hallway, and then we see all these images of and I assume it must be at that same building that was supposed to be, but this or at least nearby. But we see all of this in Germany, I believe. These displays of some sort of like Holocaust Remembrance Museum, and people cleaning it, and clearly the movie is sort of just like stating pretty like outright like the legacy of this is in 100 years everyone's gonna know that this person was a fucking monster. And in a way, I think like him, that echo or something, I mean, this is kind of an obvious interpretation, is he kind of knows that, I think. Like he understands that in a way.
Certainly if they lose, and it seemed like what year did this take place? Like did the movie take place? I'm just trying to that's one thing I couldn't quite figure out, like where in the war
let me look
we were.
Yeah, probably like early 40s still, probably like
Okay.
42, 43 would be my guess.
I'm just thinking, like, at the time, they still probably had the mindset.
1943.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, yeah.
All right, so, you know, they're not so sure anymore. Like,
Yeah.
how this thing's gonna go then. And yeah, definitely that. I think it was just that, but also like I think that scene to me was just like we all kept away from it. It's like it's good to disassociate, but it's also sometimes good to remember like what happened here and just like to see. You know, when we saw those shoes and stuff, there's just like, oh, you know.
Well, because it's showing what you're disassociating from and what these characters through this film did, and they led the blind eye of like out of sight, out of mind, and then clearly you're seeing what they put the out of sight, out of mind in, and it's just like, obviously.
I thought it was a great way of like showing the atrocity without showing the atrocity.
Yeah.
I thought it was a very powerful statement.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And
yeah, because the movie could almost, I don't know what the movie's rated, but it could almost be rated like G or something.
I was thinking about that after. I was like, what is this rated? Because it's like, it seems like it should be R-rated, but also nothing happens in it that is.
Right.
And I checked it out. It was PG-13. I was
that
like,
makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I was like, because it like there's so much terrible things happening in the movie. Like we just watched this. Like, this is so awful. But it's all just implied. It's just by sound. So
it's again, it's that horror of what you don't see and what your brain does. And even like when toward that end part, when they were sweeping the floors out and you saw like the burn marks, and it's like, you know what the fuck happened here. Mm-hmm. And it's so much more horrific to not see that and just like have your head as you're watching this going like, I literally can imagine what happened. And obviously what our brains are going to do is crazier than anything you could put on film. So it was effective for that reason alone. And also it'd be a little gross to put on film.
Yeah,
like, it would be super gross.
It'd be a hard way to do it tastefully, or I don't know.
Oh, but, Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. That's one thing I think. One of the greatest things about Schindler's List is when, like, at the end, when they finally get to Auschwitz and like, you finally see it, but like, okay, this is the one that he stops, but like, just I mean, when I first saw it, I was like, yeah, but like every single other one didn't stop. That gas came out, and it was like it was a way to show it without then showing that part. Which some might call a cop out, but I don't think so. I don't need to see that to understand.
Yeah, it's just not the type of movie that this
is. What this movie, since we're talking Oscars, it kind of reminded me of Killers of the Flower Moon, but also Maestro in a way. And just hear me out of this. So,
everyone's favorite Best Picture nom.
These are all
the best double feature. Really, is Zone of Interest and Maestro.
They're not really plot heavy. I know we said the same thing about Poor Things, but the difference about Poor Things in these three movies is a lot happens in Poor Things. You can't say nothing happens in Poor Things, but with those three movies, my sister, who is not a big movie buff, who doesn't go see movies, if I showed her any of these movies, she'd say nothing happens. She wouldn't like it because nothing happens. Now, I think that it takes great direction to make a movie like Killers of the Flower Moon or Zone of Interest, where like, nothing happens, but you're watching it and you're like, okay, but actually a lot happens.
Lots happening,
Maestro film, I didn't quite care for. I didn't think it was horrible, but it did occasionally. There were times I was just like, nothing really happened in this movie. Like, so you can fall into that sometimes when you're not a very plot-heavy movie. With Maestro, there's definitely times where it's like, they were just kind of hanging out for a lot of the movie. And I think it just it takes it's a very fine line to walk with these type of things. So. Those are my thoughts when I saw Zone of Interest.
One more thing just about the ending of the Zone of Interest. One of the things I think that works so well for me, and I guess for most everyone else as well, is that I felt like that movie, the point it was making was fairly clear, like sort of early on into the movie. Not to accuse it of repeating itself, but like I understood what it was saying before it was over. Yeah. But once we got to that ending, that was when I like really kind of felt like within me what it was saying. It was like a very emotional kind of a point to its own point.
Mm-hmm.
Very much so, and it was minimal. This is the minimalist thing you could do.
Yeah.
It was so effective.
If you watch a movie like Come and See, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
If you watch a movie like Come and See and like look at the end of that movie versus the end of like The Zone of Interest, they could not be more different, but they're also kind of both saying the same thing.
Yeah, or well, like something like All Quiet on the Western Front, the German movie, which I did not care for from last year, which is just so bombastic, where it's like having like a guy getting there's like a tank, like a French tank rolling over him, and he's like like getting blown up, and I don't know what my point was. I just wanted to dunk on that movie, but
I'm going on the record as a fan of Come and See, by the way.
Okay.
Sorry, Scott. Go on.
No, Alex, I was thinking of you working this movie so often that like you could do a good parody of just like the projectionist who keeps like hearing these just like go to work every day. It's just like he just gets used to it, and like as a different it's like I can't. I can't.
Literally,
do this anymore.
three of us went separate, and like each screening, Alex was our guy.
Yeah,
you know, three of us went different. So it's funny.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that because another thing that the movie does is it opens with like 5 minutes of just black screen, and it has this really haunting music, this like droning, repetitious musical score.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, I like those little bits.
Believe me,
Alex is not.
But Alex is not. No, did that freak you out at all? Or you kind of just knew it was happening? Like, did it give you any sort of initial paranoia?
The first time we ran the movie, we were wondering, like, is something wrong?
Yeah.
Is this how it's supposed to be? But then, you know, obviously that's why we test run it for the first time before we show it. But, you know, I've heard that score so many times. It ends also with a similar way, but I've heard that so many times, it's like literally seared into my brain. Actually, one of the other projectionists was telling me he was like walking down the street and he heard like a Prius car battery like driving by him that was kind of making like a similar sound as that droning music, and it like gave him almost like a heart palpitation.
Like PTSD you guys have got from it. I'll be like, look, 30 screenings of Zone of Interest, and I'm tapped. I can't do it. It's amazing.
But let's move on, just because I don't want to keep you guys on too long tonight. Let's see, what movie do you guys think we're talking about next? Let me change my background.
Ferrari,
yeah.
Mamma Mia. Ferrari. We'll kind of like I'll just say Ferrari. It's the movie. It's about Ferrari. It's about a summer where he was doing Ferrari things, and there was a big crazy crash.
Yes.
And
one of the craziest crashes I've ever seen in my life. Actually.
That crash is like that's the scene in the movie. It's fucking
the whole time
nuts.
I'm watching it like it's kind of boring. You know, like I wasn't overly enthralled with the movie. I'm like, it's fine. But that fucking scene, like I just remember, I watched it last night. I sat up and was just, I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, it is.
It totally got me.
It is a fucking wild ass scene. My big takeaway from this is that I thought it was very good, and I wish it was longer. I wish this was either a longer movie or I wish it was like a mini series, like 6 to 8 hour mini series, because I could have spent more time. There's like these flashbacks, like this previous, like I could have spent like a whole episode like years ago when like the stuff that had happened that kind of precedes a lot of the story happens. I could have spent more time just with the drivers, getting to know them. I could have spent more time in the aftermath and seeing like what was the result of the things that happened in the movie. But I wish it was this exact same like creative team, exact same actors and stuff, because what's there is very, very good. It was one of the few. I rarely like watch a movie and I'm like, I want this to be longer, and this is one of the few ones where it's like, I wish this was longer. I wish there was more of it.
No, I remember when it ended. Like it's him and his son walking, and then it just cuts to black and directed by Michael Mann. I was like, what?
Yeah.
Like I was like, oh, it's done. Jeez.
Watching it at home, I got the advantage of doing a quick time check, because I was feeling it, going like, I've been in this movie for a little while, and I know it's not super long, and it was like 15 minutes left, and I was like, wow, they're rapping, you know, and that was, I agree completely with you guys, and wish we had a little bit more.
Yeah, I was thinking about it, like it would be cool, like an 8 hour miniseries where maybe like the race that ends with the crash is like episode 6 or something, and maybe like episode 3 is like a flashback to the war era, and maybe like episode 5 or something is like just focuses on the drivers or something like that, you know.
It did a thing that like Ford v Ferrari didn't do, where Ford v Ferrari was like very heavy on just the cars, the racing, what this is all about. It's on the track, we got to get but like there was so much more story in this one that it was like kind of 50-50, the racing stuff, and it looked pretty good. I thought it was really well shot. I know some people freaked out at the CGI, and I was like, it wasn't terrible. And you know, it was what it was, and you know, but we spent the time to actually going through the characters, you know, dealing with what his day looked like when he got home from work. And I think that was the difference on Ford v Ferrari didn't do, but the trade-off for that is, again, we didn't delve into like super, like, again, the drivers or a lot more of the narrative of like Ferrari as a company moving along, you know.
But still, good movie, worth watching. Maybe Michael Mann will put out a longer version, because I think he's done that a couple times.
I want to
Adam Driver's great.
Yeah, Adam Driver's really good. Penelope Cruz is really
amazing.
Good. Yeah,
she owned it.
Yeah. I liked it a lot. It didn't really get any Oscar noms. Whatever.
Didn't it get some sound or editing, or am I wrong?
Did it? Maybe. I don't
know.
I know
it is fascinating how good everybody's English was back in the day. It's so crazy.
Well, that's one of those things. I know people were like, "Oh, they didn't get Italian actors," and I'm like, it's fine. Like that's the movie.
No, it's totally fine. Yeah. It's funny because I watched it at home. I was like, "Oh, there's subs in this one." I'm like, "Oh, that's right. We are doing a full." There's not a single sub.
I will say this is one of those movies, and one of the other movies we're talking about actually is also. I remember we're gonna do a thing for the Oscar episode in a month where we're gonna give away some awards for things that I think should be honored at the Oscars and aren't. And one of those is stunts, and movies like this and one of the other movies we're talking about, I think, prove the point of what I remember I had a teacher back in the day who was like, "Oh, should this be the Nacho Dorito Bowl like stunt award or whatever?" And I'm like, "Oh, shut the fuck up." And I think movies like this, I mean, to be fair, the stunt award probably would go to an action movie, but there are movies like this that I think prove like, no, there are real, Oscar season movies that have incredible stunt work, like the driving in this movie and those, because there's some CGI, but there's a lot of real practical driving in this movie, and it's incredible and beautiful. Didn't bother me.
Yeah, the way people took criticism ahead of time, it was like, Marvel, like a shitty Marvel movie or something, the way everybody reacted. And I'm like, it's fine. It's fine.
It got the point across,
absolutely.
where it's like every time I watch it, like, Jesus.
Because I thought all the other practical shots were very, very, very well done. Obviously, it's Michael Mann. He knows what he's doing. And I think that's the thing. If it didn't look good everywhere else, maybe that would have come through more. But some of those straight driving shots were fantastic.
I'm glad I got to see it on the big screen because it looked amazing.
Sure. Let's switch. What movie are we talking about now?
American Fiction.
American Fiction. Yeah, I feel like I'm maybe the dissenter because I know Brian and Scott have seen it. You guys kind of liked it. I
liked it a lot. Yeah, it's sort of like a third kind of lost me. But
yeah, I just can't remember. This is like one of the hardest I've laughed in theaters this last year. Like I was just cackling at the movie. I get why the ending has had mixed reactions, and I get why the focus on the family has had mixed reactions. My rebuttal to those is different. The focus on the family, I think, is like core to the movie. If people don't know American Fiction, it's about Monk, a writer played by Jeffrey Wright, who has been basically tired of his books not getting published because they're not black enough, and so he writes a book called My Pathology that is sort of playing into the stereotype of drug dealers and baby mamas and dead dads, and then it ends up doing really well for him. And the trailers pitch the movie all around that, and they don't pitch the fact that like half of the movie, maybe even more of the movie than half,
more, yeah.
is
more of it, yeah, definitely.
Is about Monk's actual personal life. But I think that's actually kind of core to the movie, where like it's, I mean, and maybe this is like obvious, but it's showing that like while he is profiting off of this thing that creates like a caricature of what his life, quote unquote, was like as a black person, his actual life as a black person is much more complicated and nuanced and mellow and sad and weird and funny and yeah. Great cast. Sterling K. Brown.
Sterling K. Brown was unbelievable. So good. And honestly, him and Issa Rae. Issa Rae is becoming one of my favorite actors working right now. Every single thing she does is just unreal. It's so good. And I thought, again, she delivered it. It's where almost I wanted more of those characters, because once you kind of realize with the third, it's, oh, we're wrapping it up now. You kind of were done with it. But I really enjoyed living in the world with them all.
I liked it a lot. I thought it was really funny. I thought Jeffrey Wright was great. I was thinking, is this his first leading man role? I think like maybe Westworld, but even then, Evan Rachel Wood would be ahead of him.
He like certainly with this amount of like publicity and this large of a stage for sure. Yeah, and yeah, he's great. I crack up just thinking about the scene. There's a scene early on where they're spreading somebody's ashes in the in the water. Jeffrey Wright down at the beach, and Sterling K. Brown further back, and this dude, like a neighbor clearly at like their family beach house, like walks up to, I forget his name, like Daryl or something, and he like walks up and he's like, hey, do you guys have a permit to pour those ashes out on the beach? And then you just hear like Jeffrey Wright in the background like, fuck off, Daryl, like yelling from the sea. And
like it's not been the first time they've been called out by this neighbor,
there's clearly history there between those two families. I didn't mind the focus on all the family, but I just wish there was more consequence. I wish there was more consequence to like the book storyline, because it just seemed to be like anytime they cut back to it, it was just more like more of this shenanigans, and I guess it was the B plot, and I guess like
definitely
it seemed to be the B plot, and I guess maybe if I went in knowing that was the B plot as opposed to the family, I might have had a different thing, but it just seemed to be.
And it was really it was really good, that storyline leading up until it sort of just kind of got flat for me, I think. But like I wanted to kind of see it play out more in the release of it, him naming the book. All of that was so good. And then it was sort of like, the consequences for it all. You're just sort of like, oh, okay.
Yeah. I was okay with it. I think part of it is I was sort of prepped going in, knowing how much of a focus there was on the family. And then I think too, when the credits rolled, like one of the first credits obviously is like based on the book by, and I immediately went like, oh, okay. Like it very much so feels like a movie based on a book in a way that I don't mean in a negative, where like the ending is doing things that I think would probably be more satisfying in a book, in a way, and in a movie is not as much, but I don't know. I was okay. I was very charmed by this movie. Who knows? Maybe on a revisit in a couple of years, I'll be like, "Fuck this movie." But
sure.
It
wasn't bad. I mean, I'll say
no.
that.
I liked it. I'd recommend it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was just maybe a little. Maybe I had higher expectations because I didn't know much about it, but I just heard it was great, and I saw it. I was like, oh,
yeah,
good.
Yeah. Let me change my background again. You guys can guess. Wait, where the fuck did that shit go? Here we go. It's a Winter Wonderland.
I'm guessing it's the other one.
Society of the Snow.
Society of the Snow, yeah.
I'll keep this really short because I'm the only one who's seen it.
I think,
It's pretty good. I would say it's a very good encapsulation of that story. If people don't know that story, it makes some really interesting choices. I will say the person, because I last podcast on the left, my favorite podcast, had just apparently, like, this is me. Apparently they used to like not, they wouldn't, like, if they knew like a movie was coming out, they like would avoid a subject, and then like one of them was talking recently about how like they were like, oh, that's actually really stupid. Like when Oppenheimer comes out, that's when we should do the Manhattan Project series. When Society of the Snow comes out, that's when we should do the Andy series, because it's gonna have. Yes. And so they did that recently, and they do like they do an insane amount of research, and the movie does a good job of like telling that story for people who don't know that story, but specifically as someone who kind of had just listened to that story, I was like, this is the main character, and like this is a really mild spoiler because it's based on a real story, but skip ahead for 5 seconds or close your ears if you don't want to hear this, anybody on here. But the main character for most of the movie is the last guy who dies, like a day or two before they go on expedition out. And so the whole movie, I was like, that's interesting. And then obviously, as the movie ends, it kind of just like breaks from his POV. It is very good. The plane crash at the beginning would make Eli Roth jealous. Like it's legit. Really? It is. You're just like, what the fuck? Like, oh my! It's when they hit the plane crash. I heard. Like, I hate to get into gory details, but I will. But essentially, the seats like accordioned, more or less. Oh, wow. And it's.
I mean, honestly, if it's anything like that crash scene in Ferrari, I mean that shit's Eli Roth right there.
It is up in terms of big accident scenes from last year. It's up there with Ferrari. Yeah. I will say
that should be one of the categories for the awards. Is like just best crash or best accident in a film.
I will say it's
fictional, though. By the way, fictional.
Yeah,
some things out there that have happened.
It's a little too one note, I would say, and obviously like that seems obvious thinking about it. It's like, well, yeah, of course it's one note. It's a fucking horror show. They had to like resort to cannibalism and all this shit. But for me personally, I like movies that are kind of weaving in and out of tones a little bit more, and it is a movie that I wouldn't say like, it's not like the thing where it's like, oh, I'll never watch that movie again, it was too tough, but it is like, it's like a good summary of it, and it really puts you in that like headspace of it, but it's also not, I think as a movie, maybe it's not like something I would want to go back to, just because it's like, it's just, the whole movie is just like just like a slog, which to be fair,
it's a sloggy nightmare
is what it was. IRL.
Right. Yeah, totally. Yeah.
But that doesn't mean I want to watch that.
Bro.
Yeah.
There wasn't a party city to go to. We couldn't decorate.
Bro, the plane crashed. I'm meeting my friends. I am straight up not having a good time.
It's funny too. Day. There's like a couple of things they didn't explain that I was like, I wonder what people who don't know this story would think, which is the big thing is that the one thing, do you guys know what the one resource these people had in unlimited supply? Cigarettes. They had like an enormous like giant cartons of cigarettes, and they were all just like smoking constantly the whole time. And I can see like, if you don't know that, you'd be like, why, how the fuck are they still smoking? But it's like, that was the one thing they had.
Wow. I'd just be looking around for John Locke the whole time and just going like, please man, just show me the way.
Yeah.
So Lost reference for anybody who has never seen
it. I almost picked a Lost, like a plane clash thing, but I was like, that feels a little distasteful.
I would have, because I picked it. I would have, right. I picked the one with him with the orange peel in his mouth when we first meet him. Like that, just framed in my brain where every time I think about John Locke.
Hold on a second. Let me change my background. This is the reason why I want to do the Spider-Man, because this was the other one that I was like, oh, Spider-Man.
Oh, and that's a good one.
And
step into a Slim Jim.
Iron Claw, the story of the what's the name of this fucking family? The
Von Erich brothers.
The Von Erich brothers. Great stuff, devastating. If people don't know,
fucking this movie of all the ones this year, this destroyed me.
Yeah, Josh, previous guest on the show, Josh Oakley, said that it gave him a headache because he was sobbing so hard. So, which I can see. Yeah, I don't really have a lot to say about it. It's it's a really sad, devastating movie.
It's a biopic on the family and what they went through, but just the details, and it was like they were known as sort of the cursed family, you know, and like things kept happening, and the whole thing was that like the father, he took the name the Von Erich because he wanted to do it for like the business side of it, and he was saying doing that like kind of that's the rumor of the curse and the beginning of it. But it is devastating. Every single character is incredible. I mean, Zac Efron is one of those guys that, you know, I know he has talent. You've obviously seen different things, but this is the one that really like affirmed where he's at in his career, and he can deliver. And he was incredible in this film. Yeah. It kind of, is it okay if we do that little bit of spoiler at the end? I mean, 'cause it is like a biopic-y kind of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, basically, you know, the way the film's playing out is you're watching each of these brothers sort of go through a tragic death, and it, you know, how much it affects the family and him. Because Eric, the brother who's played by, or I'm sorry, Kevin, he's the one, right? It's Kevin. I think it is. Yeah. Kevin Bonnet. Yeah, Kevin is the Zac Efron brother. And for me personally, like this one just destroyed me as far as the brother thing. Like, first of all, I kind of grew up with wrestling, and wrestling was one of those things that my brother and I were really into. And actually, one of the guys, I think it was the one. I think it's I can't think. It was Jeremy Allen's character. I think he played one, but he ended up being the Texas Tornado in the WWF. And I remember as a kid seeing that. I think he was the only character I kind of remembered from that. And my brother is one of those films that my brother would have been all about of. And literally a year ago, obviously right now, and you guys know, but everybody else, I lost my brother last year. And watching this film, like, I didn't expect to feel the way I feel. Like, I kind of roughly knew what had happened with the history, and I knew it was like, yeah, there was a lot of different deaths. There's a line that Zac Efron delivers at the end of the film where he's lost all of his brothers, and he has basically his two kids, and they're out in the back wrestling and having a good time. And then he starts to kind of cry, and the kids sort of look at him and like, you know, Dad, why are you crying? And he delivers this line that's just like, I used to be a brother. I'm not a brother anymore. And the way that hit me, because my brother who passed was the only brother I've had. So like, it just like, that was the most visceral thing I think I've ever heard, because I never thought of it in that context. So to see it like with that perspective, it just, I mean, sobbing, you want to talk. I mean, it was incredible. I haven't had a film affect me like that in a long time. And it's one that I probably won't be able to go watch again. And had I almost known the way it would play out, I don't know if I would have done it the first time, but that was an emotional beat for sure, like a beyond an emotional beat.
Yeah, I don't know if I've said this on this show before, but when I was very young, when I was 2, I had a brother who was 3 years old and who died. And so obviously it's not quite the same thing, but I felt I had kind of similar reaction where I felt that sort of angst of that absence there. But yeah, devastating final scene.
It was incredible.
I think the craziest thing about the movie and how devastating it is that in real life it is even more devastating.
There was another extra brother who also committed suicide IRL.
Yeah. Which apparently they like left that out because they thought it was too repetitive and too much. Yeah. Which I somewhat have a problem with, because it's like, yeah, that's the point. Yeah. You're making
exactly.
Like truth is stranger than fiction. Like, yeah, it's too much. Yes, that's the point. It's too much. What they've been through is too much. And like the idea that like, oh well, I'm sorry, like your story is tragic, but not quite commercially tragic. So we're just gonna narratively tragic. Like I'm not sure how I felt about that. I still like the movie, but just that as a choice seems odd.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think the movie probably, I mean, it would have been a longer movie probably with that, and so I think that was the big decision. But I kind of know what you're saying. It also, like, I'm in my head, I'm like, when is that tragic Chris Benoit movie gonna come out? Because that'll probably happen at some
that would
point.
be a whole other movie. That'd be a wild one.
Yeah, I mean that'll be a different sort of tragic, obviously.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I don't know his story. What?
It's fucked up.
He murdered his family basically.
Jesus. All right.
Long story short, like, yeah,
He murdered
people
his.
say it was either like steroids and he had some roid rage, and then other people are saying he had like that injury, that head injury that like
CTE.
football players can get. Yes.
Yeah.
And he reacted out of that, like, because he wasn't himself anymore. But either way, he's vilified obviously with everything that did happen.
Well, to be fair, the real villain there is Vince McMahon because of the way he was running the WWF at the time, and
not to stray off too far with but he's actually now under some big thing. He was made to like the
which
whatever,
makes sense.
It's crazy. I mean, some of the stories that I was watching, I think, is sex trafficking. It's like, but you kind of watch it play out, and you're like, well, why wouldn't this be happening? This dude it was a playground for like a million years. Of course. That's wild. That's crazy world. But this one was and for a wrestling movie, because I actually went into this kind of being like, all right, we're going to see this, and I knew there was going to be some down points, but I never ever expected that it went on this emotional level that it does hit, and it was successful doing.
Yeah, my joke, Vince McMahon is truly breaking kayfabe and just actually becoming a huge villain. Vince, you're supposed to pretend to be a huge villain. Yeah, that's the whole point. But also, this was the other movie I mentioned earlier. We're talking about Ferrari, that I was like, this, if there was a stunt category, this would get nominated probably, because like the stunt work is just really great. Really like you never like you buy all of the wrestling stuff, and because I think we're all relatively on the same page. I know, like, back in the heyday, people are like, "Oh, wrestling's all fake," and like, yes, it is kind of, but it's also like they're really like,
still gonna get beat up.
Yes, they're really like smacking. The fake part is like the results and who wins, but the actual like getting smacked down and thrown around, like that stuff is real.
As many punches as you pull, you're gonna get destroyed, and that's why all those guys have had the careers they have had. No fake thing can do that. It's crazy.
Yeah. But hold on, what the fuck? I think it's
I'm
just
feeling Chris Isaac in the air.
Yeah. I gotta change my background. Do that, and then I go over to here. Hey, welcome to Connor's Wicked Games. Every week, like Jigsaw, I like to play a little game. Sponsored by Chris Isaac. This week, Zones of Interest. We're going to be talking about, Zone of Interest is it is an American-produced movie, so it's actually excluded from this. But it is a movie that's pretty much not in English at all. Like, I don't think there's any English in the movie.
No.
And we talk about Society of Snow. So what we're talking about tonight, and this is the most traditional like trivia game I've created in a minute. We're talking about a couple of different things, but to start with, we're talking about English, non-English language films that have been nominated for Best Picture. So excluding the few that have been produced by America. So Zone of Interest was produced by America. Letters from Iwo Jima, produced by America. Minari and Past Lives, which are the other ones that Wikipedia considers produced by America. But these are going to be multiple choice. But after I ask the question, I'll give everyone an opportunity to answer before I give the choices. And then at that point, you can change your answer. And if you stick with your answer before you got the choices, you'll get 3 points. If you change your answer and win with the multiple choice, you get 1 point. And then there's a little bit else, but we'll do it as we go along. So number one, and you guys can just shout this out. Excluding American-made films, as I mentioned, how many non-English language films have been nominated for Best Picture? Any guesses before I give the multiple choice?
I mean, I kind of want to say one, but I feel like more have been nominated. I think one only won.
I would say 4.
Yeah, actually, I'm thinking about more too. Like, I'll say I'll like 4 or 5, whatever. What are your multiple choice?
Alex, do you want to hear the multiple choice?
Yeah, I'll say 7, and then sure, I'll hear the multiple choice.
All right. So the multiple choice: A5, B9, C13, or D17.
I'm gonna stick in a 5.
I'm sticking with 4.
I honestly just did Price is Right rules and just went over $1.
I'll go to 9.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna move to 13.
Alex. 1 point for
Ooh.
Alex. It was
All right.
13. Second
We
question.
all know you love international film. So.
Yeah. Second question. How many of these have been in the last 10 years?
6.
5.
Yeah, 5. I just have no idea.
Multiple choice. We've got A2, B5, C8, or D11.
We'll stick with B. 5.
Yeah, I'll go 5. Close.
Yeah, 5 sounds good. Yeah.
Brian and Scott, that's 3 points because y'all guessed, and 1 point for Alex because it is indeed 5 of those movies. Next question. Which continent has the most of these noms? A, Africa, B, Asia, C, Europe, or D, three-way tie? Or wait, no, I should have let you guys guess first.
So
Sorry.
Yeah.
I fucked up.
Yep.
I mean, I was gonna say Europe as my first, anyways.
I'm gonna go Asia.
I was gonna go Asia too.
Oh shit! You know what? Yeah, forget me. I'm going Asia too. I forgot how gigantic Asia is for a second.
Well, it wouldn't have mattered because it is Europe.
Oh.
Brian, you gotta think. First choice.
Yeah. All right. How many
Peer
other continents are represented? I'll let you guys answer first.
Other than those 4, you mean?
Other than Europe.
Other than Europe.
Oh, okay.
So from those 13 films, how many continents are represented that aren't Europe? Any guesses?
I guess it was 3 continents. I said 4.
Do you guys want to hear the choices?
Yeah.
No, I'm gonna say
3.
Yeah, I was gonna say 4.
Yeah, I'm between 2 and 3. I'll say 3.
A1, B2, C3, D4.
3. Sticking with it.
3. Yeah.
I'm gonna stick with 4.
It's 2, baby.
2.
What is it?
2?
So it's just is it Asia and Australia?
I will reveal those later on because some of the other questions might have to deal with that. Which country has the most of these non-English language noms? So this could be a European one.
I'm gonna say France.
France makes sense. The one that I was initially thinking too. Makes sense. I mean, then Italy though. Italy has a but not.
Shit, I forgot Italy was a country.
Yeah, Italy's got a lot going on. So.
I forgot the existence of Italy.
I kind of want to go with a non-European country. I'm gonna say Japan.
All right. So what are these pre-multiple choice answers?
I'm gonna stick with France.
I think I am too. Yeah.
Japan.
A, France, B, Italy, C, Spain, D, Sweden.
Changing my answer.
Japan just makes Godzilla -1, so they've already won. I'm gonna stick with France then.
Italy.
It's gonna be France or Italy for sure.
Brian and Scott, it is indeed France as that one. France. You know
I was just trying to think of like the amount of phases France has had, versus Italy, and can't think of Italy in a while. So
yeah, the Giallos were not getting nominated for Best Picture.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It also just seems like the Academy, like if they're gonna nominate a foreign film, like just if it's a French film, like it sounds important,
Well, I mean, look at the Palme d'Or, the way we look at Cannes, you're like, oh,
yeah. I think that's.
Which speaking of these 13 nominations, which director's films have been nominated more than once for Best Picture?
I don't know enough French directors.
It doesn't necessarily have to be a French director.
Yeah, I know. That's true. Yeah, you're right.
You know what? I'm going to say controversial pick here, Roman Polanski.
That's what I was thinking too. I was like, God, I want to even say that fucking name, but that's the first one that came to my brain too. Because he's that one that you get he gets the nom, and you're like, there's always that discussion. Yeah,
sure.
I'm going to stick with that.
Yeah, that's a great guess.
All right, the multiple choice: A. Ingmar Bergman, B. Michael Haneke, C. Jean Renoir, or D. None.
D. None.
Oh, that none of them have had multiple films?
That no director has been nominated more than once for a non-English language film.
I mean, Jean Reno is the only one I can think of, but I don't think it made it across the year in that capacity.
I guess I'll say none. Why not?
Yeah.
I know Ingmar Bergman rejected at least one nomination. Would that have counted then? Can I ask that?
I don't think so.
Okay. So I'm going to say it's not him. Did Michael Haneke, he got nominated for Amour, right? Can't think of what else. Oh, The White Ribbon. I'm going to say Michael Haneke. That might have been it.
None. Unfortunately, none of these guys were nominated. None of these guys' movies.
Do you have an example of who was Polanski a bunch, I guess?
No, well, I think Polanski's films that were nominated were in English, I think. That for Best Picture were American-produced films.
They're American.
Right.
He was just in his extradited status.
He was gone, but the films themselves were...
were American.
Yeah, that makes sense, yeah.
Okay, so we talk about Europe has the most of those nominations. Which continent has the second most of the aforementioned nominations?
Asia.
I mean, Asia would make the most sense. I mean, that's its own world of,
guess,
cinema. Literally.
I'm going to go with Asia, too.
My multiple choice, A, Africa, B, Asia, C, North America, D, South America. Anyone want to change their answer?
So North America's part of this?
Potentially.
Do you mean like Canada and Mexico, not the United States?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh wait, you're saying not the United States, so North America is in Mexico and Canada?
Yeah.
Okay.
So not okay. Yeah, that's okay. That changes it definitely. Then I'm gonna stick with Asia.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I'm gonna stick with Asia.
You are all correct. It is indeed Asia.
Yeah.
You threw me off with the North America because it was like, obviously the U.S. included. That's like, yeah, no shit. Does that make?
What country has the most of these noms? So out of the Asian countries, which country has the most?
I mean, honestly, it's just because the Bollywood thing. I want to say India, but I don't know.
Yeah,
because I don't know if it's translated up here.
I want to go Japan again, but part of me wants to say Russia.
I'm gonna go with Japan.
Japan. Yeah.
All right. The options are A, China, B, Japan, C, Korea, or D, three-way tie.
Sticking with it.
Yes, stick with B.
Yeah, I'm gonna move to Japan.
It is a three-way tie. Sorry to kind of trick everyone there, but
no, I thought...
there's not that many questions after this first section, but the last of this first section, what country has the one non-European and non-Asian nom of this group?
Say that again.
What country, so in terms of the non-English language films, what country that isn't in Asia and isn't in Europe has the one other, because every nomination for non-English language films is from Europe or Asia except for one, and what country is that from?
Mexico.
Mexico.
Mexico, yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Mexico.
The options are A, Fiji, B, Mexico, C, Senegal, or D, South Africa.
Sticking with it.
Yeah, I mean, you've got Alfonso Cuarón.
Got to get those points
on the brain.
Yeah.
You guys are correct.
Yeah.
And here,
No best pictures coming out of Fiji. Come on, man.
They just got water, and that's it.
bonus round, and this is the first person. I'm going to eliminate it once somebody says it. First person to shout out, like, there's 13 nominations. So start shouting out the movies, and you're going to get points for each one. First person to shout out each movie. Parasite. There you go. There's one of them.
La La Land. Oh wait, that's not me. I hate that movie too.
What?
La La Land is super. You guys didn't see the how foreign film that is? My God. Gosling just.
Roma.
Yep. There's another.
Roma.
Amelie was.
Unfortunately, no.
Okay.
Y tu mamá también.
Nope. I will say 2 of these movies we've mentioned before on this episode.
On this particular episode?
Yeah.
All Quiet on the Western Front.
Yep, that's one of them.
Shit. Yeah.
Oh man.
Any other guesses?
I mean, it wasn't an. I want to say Teton, but I know that wasn't.
No.
What about Babel?
No.
Oh, was Bardo nominated?
Nope.
Pan's Labyrinth, was that anything? I don't think so.
Are you guys all?
Yeah, I was
John Woo's the killer.
In our countries, and now I'm just like,
I can't think of like the actual
all right.
nominees.
I'll read off the other ones that got nominated. The Grand Illusion, Z, The Emigrants, Cries and Whispers, Il Postino, aka the Postman, Life is Beautiful, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon,
Crouching Tiger, of course.
Last Emperor is not one of them. Amor, which you mentioned earlier, Alex. Drive My Car, and Anatomy of a Fall.
Of course.
All right, 3 questions now about the winners. So this this isn't about language. This is about non-American. Okay. So how many Best Picture winners have been wholly produced outside of the U.S.?
I think just one.
Any other guesses before we get the choices?
I'll wait for the choices.
Yeah, I'll wait.
I'm just guessing.
A10, B13, C16, D19.
Oh, so not one.
That's what I was afraid of, yeah.
Wait, winners?
Yeah, winners have been wholly produced outside of the United States.
Damn.
10, I guess. I'll go with the lowest option.
Yeah, I feel like...
What are the numbers again?
10, 13, 16, and 19.
I'll say 13.
Brian?
I'm thinking of who I want to stick with. I don't know. What's the lowest one? 13 or
10?
10 is
9 or 10? Yeah, 10. We'll go with
that. Brian and Alex, it was indeed 10. You should have gone with your instinct, Scott, that it was very low. How many of these were at least partially produced by the United Kingdom?
Well, 5.
Yeah, I was going to say 5 too.
5, yeah.
5. All right, well, I'll say 5.
The options are, unfortunately, A6, B7, C8, or D9.
I'm gonna go with 7.
I was going to say 7. Yeah, 7.
And what'd you say, Alex?
6.
It's 8 of them. 8 of the 10. So everyone knows One of the other two is Parasite. That's the obvious one. But where was the other one produced? What country produced the other one?
Wait, what?
So 10 movies that have been produced outside of the U.S. have won Best Picture. 8 were produced by the U.K. 1 was Parasite. And what's that last one?
Was it
What country, I mean?
Germany?
I'm going to say Japan.
Brian?
I'm gonna need some options.
A, France, B, Italy, C, Spain, or D, Sweden?
I was thinking of Sunrise by Murnau. Didn't that like get a tie of Best Picture or something?
It might have, but I think that might have been produced in the United States.
Right. I'll say France.
Yeah, I'm going to say France now, too.
Yeah, I won with that one before. If it's Italy, man, I'll tell you.
Well, you guys are all right. It is indeed France. And bonus point to the first person that can name what that movie is.
The Grand Illusion?
No pressure, Alex, but the pressure is on you. You are the aficionado.
It is not the Grand Illusion.
Is it Grand Illusion?
It is not.
No, not that.
I have no idea. Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah.
Throwing in the towel.
Yeah.
The Artist. Remember that movie?
Oh, Jesus. No,
Jesus.
I don't.
Yeah, no. I've long forgot about that one, thankfully.
That one, Best
thanks for
Picture, I
reminding us
forgot.
about that.
Yeah, that one. Yeah. Holy
And it
shit.
was
Just produced in France?
It was wholly produced by France, apparently, or like largely.
Oh, wow.
Like they were and not produced at all by the U.S. So.
I mean, that win wasn't as bad as the Crash win, but still, it was a good one.
And then so we have a final Jeopardy question. You guys are all very close. Alex, you got 13 points. Scott, you have 14. Brian, you have 15.
Whoa!
I thought you were trying. I was prepping for my bronze medal. This is what I'm on.
No, and so there were this.
Out on the bronze.
The final Jeopardy question. We'll do the normal rules. But the category before you guys make your wagers, and again, we're doing a little honor system here. The category is UK Best Picture winners. So think about how many of your points you want to wager. Again, Alex 13, Scott 14, Brian 15. Give you guys a second. Do I have a Jeopardy sound?
What's the?
Do we have to name what the pictures are? Or are we naming how many?
Yeah,
well, right now you're thinking of your wager before I tell you the question. So how many of your
the
points?
Category is
UK Best Picture winners.
Okay.
So does everyone have their wager in their head?
Yes.
Yeah.
Wait, what's Alex got again?
Alex
13.
Alex is at 13.
15? 13.
I'm
at, what am I? I'm at 15?
15.
You're 15.
Yeah, it's Alex 13, me 14, you're 15.
Sorry, I'm not used to winning.
It's just not quite sinking in yet.
Yeah, I just need to reconfirm that.
Yeah. If you wager 0 and they both get it wrong, you win.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah, I'm trying to think of that.
So everyone has their wagers locked in?
Yep.
The question is, name 2 of the 8 films that the UK has produced that won Best Picture. So everyone can think about it for a second. I'll give everyone a moment to think about it and write it down in their mind's eye. I
have one. But if we have one, it's not going to count.
No, it has to be 2. Because I thought about that. I was like, if this is 1, this is too easy.
Yeah.
So it's what's the question?
Name 2 of the 8 UK films that have won Best Picture. Let me know when you guys have your answers locked in. I'll play this again. All right. I think we're gonna. I think you guys are gonna have to have your answers locked in at this point, regardless.
Locked and loaded.
Yeah.
Let's first off, how much did you guys wager?
I wagered nothing.
I wagered 12.
I wagered 3.
3. And what have you guys answered? We'll go with Brian first.
I only have the one, so I'm sticking with nothing.
Okay. Scott?
I have no fucking idea. I really do not know. I really don't know.
And then Alex is just going to show us up now. You know,
Yeah.
hey, it's like fucking 80 points I put on. Oh, you only have 13. It doesn't matter.
Alex, you said
No,
you wagered 12, right?
I did. I wagered 12, but I only came up with the original All Quiet on the Western Front, which might not even be a British production. But I don't know the other one.
Unfortunately, you guys named none of the 8 movies. I'll read them out now. It's
the only one I was thinking of, see if I'm correct, was Slumdog Millionaire, was that?
Yes, Slumdog Millionaire
That's
is one of them.
That was the only one I could think of.
You guys mentioned The Last Emperor earlier. That's one of them.
That's right.
That was produced entirely in the UK, or like not in America at least. Hamlet from like the 30s or something. Tom Jones, A Man for All Seasons, Chariots of Fire, Gandhi, and The King's Speech, among the others that I already mentioned.
Okay. Yeah, that would have.
The King's Speech should have been the one I picked up on.
Sorry to like everyone that loves this shit, but like I barely remember what movies have won Best Picture.
That's insane.
Preview for the Oscar episode. That episode is going to be, I'm going to read the description of an Oscar winner, and you guys have to tell me the name.
I mean, that might be a little easier just in the fact that like I'm aware of movies, but I'm not necessarily aware of like what accolades they've received.
Right.
But Alex, that's a bronze medal, only your second. Scott, that's a silver medal, only your fourth. And Brian, and to be fair, Brian, this is your, because I only, you were like, oh, you said that the other week, like you were so surprised that you won. I was more going off of your energy, because you're always like, oh, I never win. This is your 4th gold, so like, it's.
I'm like I'm a pool hustler. That's what I'm actually doing after this. I gotta hustle some people,
But yeah, let me. Edwin's not here and Fraser's over, so it's time to change my background on this and see if anybody has anything else they want to talk about. I think we should get a motherfucking ceasefire up in here. And I also wanted to shout out 2 other movies that I've watched. They aren't as recent. They came out earlier last year. But they would have also been in my top films of the year list, along with The Iron Claw and Zone of Interest, if I had seen them before I posted it. And that was How to Blow Up a Pipeline.
Oh, yeah.
Which was a very good little thriller. And the big headline for me here is Blackberry, which I thought was excellent.
Blackberry was so good.
Yeah.
Really good.
Yeah,
I mean, the social network energy through that whole movie was, it knew what it was doing, but it like did it well.
Yeah, it's totally, like, tonally and aesthetically, it couldn't be, like, it's not like The Social Network, but it is at the same time, like, as a film, it works in the same way as The Social Network, because it is a real story that also like works in this like Shakespearean sort of way of like these people who, and especially this movie, I think more than The Social Network, gets into the idea of like how certain types of tech people like don't really understand the Pandora's box that they're opening. That big
that was the iPhone, that whole iPhone reveal where like they thought like nobody can beat us. We are the ones that did this. We are BlackBerry, we're RIM.
That line at the end, this is a spoiler, skip ahead for BlackBerry, but when like the AT&T guy is like, there's only 1 minute in a minute, and
the
like
problem with selling minutes is you can only sell 1 per minute.
Yeah. And Glenn Howerton, like his like horror as he realizes what he's saying, because if you haven't seen the movie, like that might almost sound like the stupidest sentence in the world, because like obviously, but
but honestly, it was one of those things watching the movie too. It's like I forgot all about that minutes. Remember that with cell phones? And
I mean, I was touring with a BlackBerry. I remember through all those days. That's why it was funny watching, because that was my first smartphone. You know, but then as soon as that iPhone came out, I was like, I had a Palm Trio at one point. I was done with all of them, and it was Apple, and that obviously that blew away everybody. And I think the interesting thing is because social network kind of has a thing where obviously there's Mark Zuckerberg's trying to, you see what he can be, but we also know what he kind of became after that with where Facebook is and all that stuff. This was just straight up like, no, it's destroying a company that thought their shit could never ever end.
Yeah. No, 100%. Yeah, there could. I've heard people talk about the idea of like a second social network movie that focuses on Mark Zuckerberg in the context of like the 2016 election and the hearings that followed. But there could not be a BlackBerry 2. There's not. That story ends.
Like a sign on a mall kiosk, you know, going like, "We still got him, guys." Yeah, it's wild.
But very good movie. And Glenn Howerton, what a fucking performance.
Really good.
Anything else you guys got?
I just want to go see The Beekeeper. That was kind of fun.
Nice.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You also did the other though that I told Connor before he jumped on that you jumped on a grenade for us and you saw Argyle, man. Good on you.
I also saw Argyle. It's fine. And it's not that. I was a little disappointed, mostly because like I think Matthew Vaughn can do great action, and the action in this it was pretty mid and pretty disappointing. Poorly choreographed and poorly conceived. I'm a fan of Matthew Vaughn. I like Kick-Ass. I like The Kingsman, but even his earlier stuff, Layer Cake. I think his best movie is this movie called Stardust, which is very underrated, but just really, really funny. This one I said it felt like a Marvel movie in the worst way, and by that I just meant like it felt more like product.
Yeah,
and like
of course,
he was just doing his thing, and not well. You know, he was just trying to make something that he could sell to a streaming service for.
That to me blows my mind is the amount of money they spent to market this film. I mean, like I don't remember the last time we've seen trailers live this long in a theater. And to have it end this way, I'm
the same shocked. Trailer. Like I assumed they were eventually going to give us a second one, but it was always
the same trailer. And like I was talking to Brian before this, I like leading up to this, I was like, if the reveal in the movie is that the real Agent Argyle is the cat, this is the best movie that's ever going to be made. This is the best film of all time. And I knew like I was like, okay, if I go see this movie and it's revealed that it's not the cat, I'm going to be really mad. But if I look up what happens in this movie and it's revealed that it is the cat, I'm also going to be mad. And spoilers alert, I looked up and I was not mad. It is not the cat. The cat is not the real Agent Argyle, because like the trailers hint at that.
Well, because to be fair, you also like came up with the thought of it being. I mean, I remember you said that next to me, and this was like first time seeing it kind of thing, where it made sense to go like, oh, that'd be cool. But then when the trailer got hammered on us so many times that it was like, there's just no way. If it is the cat, this is the most ridiculous thing ever, and it still is. Obviously, it seems.
Do you think, Scott, if the reveal had been that the cat was the real Agent Argyle, it would have been a better movie?
No.
It's deadpan no.
I was so checked out by the time they revealed who the real Agent Argyle is that like it would have made the action any better.
A-list is great, but it's not that great.
Imagine
some films.
Imagine a cat flipping around like episode 2 and 3 Yoda, like doing fucking fight stuff. That sounds like a great movie to me.
You know what? The cat does fight a little bit, and it's so poorly done. That's why
the best cat award is going to be the Marvels. The Marvels with cat, like we need that cat action.
Yeah, speaking of bad CGI, like the cat CGI was bad, and also like I asked my roommate and we saw it, like, was it shot at a high frame rate or what is the deal? He's like, no, it was just all green screen.
Yeah.
That's like just like
yeah. So you can feel that, yeah.
When the camera would move, it was one of the like worst looking movies I saw, where it's just like none of this looks like, why does this look so strange? Yeah, like I said, I was hoping it would have some good action. It didn't. But then I cleansed myself with The Beekeeper, which did have good action. And I'd say the biggest problem with a movie like that is that the budget means there's not really room for escalation. So, like, in the first act, he's punching people, and now we get to Act 3, and how's he going to get out of this? More punching people!
More punching, yeah. I grabbed it from my dad, and I scrubbed it a bit, and I was looking at the last to kind of, so I saw how he escapes, and you're like, that's exactly how I'd expect Jason Statham to escape.
Yeah. But, I mean, it's fun for a Jason Statham. Yeah, I got exactly what I wanted from that movie. So
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. Argyle, you kind of going in. You know what it reminds me of? Almost like, is it called Bulletproof? That came out a couple years ago or a year ago.
Bullet
it almost
Train.
feels like that same
Bullet Train.
Bullet Train. Thank you. Yes.
Yes.
Where it felt that same. Where I was just like, I don't want to see it. It turns off already, and that's the same feeling I had every time this Argyle trailer came up.
Yeah, like I said, I was hoping for the best because I remember when I saw Kingsman, I was like, I don't know, we'll see. And then I came out really, really impressed. So I was hoping he'd bring it again, but he just did not.
I've seen one movie from 2024 so far, and that's it, The Book of Clarence, which I thought was really interesting and really like it's one of those movies that if it had a wider audience, you would hear conservatives pearl clutching about it because it is because like this is the mild spoiler for the movie, but it's kind of a movie about using the Jesus story to tell a story. To tell the same story that we've been seeing for the last 15 years and past that with black communities where some kid gets like killed and the entire community is like devastated. And to be fair, the movie like reveals itself to be that in the last half, and it's also a very funny and like weird movie too. But I don't think it got a big enough thing because it would be funny to hear people like upset about that, frankly.
Yeah, definitely.
Because that's definitely what it becomes towards the end when Clarence is, holding the cross and stuff, and his community, Jesus's friends and family are all the black actors, and they're very obviously devastated, obviously by what's going on, and. But really good, really interesting movie. I don't know if it's a really good movie. It's kind of a shaggy movie, I would say. Too much to say that it's like a really good movie, but it is.
I get what you're saying. I wanted to see it, but it just came and went so quickly.
Yeah, it's already on digital download, I think.
Is it? So. Yeah, I heard it like its European run just got scrubbed. Like it just did not do well. And that's too bad because like even like. I always enjoy a movie like that like might not totally work, but is like scrappy and like they're really trying and going for something. I always enjoy something like that where like even if they, if they're going for a home run and they hit a double or a triple, it's just always interesting to see as opposed to a movie that I feel like Argyle was going for a double and may have gotten a single. Like it just like. It didn't have that lofty ambition.
Just a bunt.
It didn't quite hit that either. So yeah.
I don't think I've seen anything 2024. I have a Night Swim that I just keep putting off because I just know it's going to be fucking terrible. But
I was thinking when I went to go see Argyle, they had the preview for that Bob Marley movie, and I was like, man, when that comes out.
That's the other one, man. Between Argyle and Bob Marley, it's like
that looks.
The trailers.
Comes out, I was like, what are the trailers going to be after this?
That looks so bad to me. I gotta be honest, like it looks so. It is like such. I've been thinking about what's that band? Third Eye Blind, Semi-Charmed Life. Do 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 do. This is. I'll get back to my point about the Marlboro movie in a second. But I keep envisioning. Like the movie, the dramatic biopic about the Third Eye Blind, where it's like do 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 and then it becomes like reverb and echo, and it's like, this band is the most important thing I've ever done. And do 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 do. You are ignoring your family because of this, and that's what the Bob Marley trailer feels to me. I'm like, this is fucking ridiculous.
I want that same band that you said, but Bare Naked Ladies, because that's the most ridiculous band that could ever exist.
I guess,
and to have it put in a serious tone, that would be amazing.
I think it should be honestly for Three Doors Down, because then it could end with their triumphant playing of Trump's inauguration.
Yeah.
We did it, guys. I will say Bob Marley's life was a little like.
I do agree.
Oh, dude. I actually have a fun Bob Marley fact. Like the day that I was born, he played his last show ever. And I used to have a Bob Marley poster. I mean, that's obviously every high school kid who starts smoking weed is like, Bob Marley's the greatest thing I've ever heard in my ears. So I was, of course, a big fan of it. But yeah, over the years, I always kept every once in a while listening. But when I saw this trailer, man, it just did not give me that hope of I love Bob Marley that way I grew up liking him.
I agree that Bob Marley is a more interesting figure than these bands. My point was more that this trailer gives me the vibe of that joke trailer, because that's like a 30 Rock gag or something.
Yeah,
it
definitely was hoping to be an important, Oscar movie,
and it's being released in February, so we know what the studios think about that.
There's the sign. But we do have. I haven't seen anything yet. There's 2 that are coming out early on. One that is February, and I'm hoping and I'm thinking it's going to be great. I'm going to check it out next week, I think, and it's Drive-Away Dolls. Can't wait to see Drive-Away Dolls. And then March 15th, we have the one that I'm most excited for is going to be Rose Glass's brand new film.
Well,
and that is...
and obviously the reason for the season, March 1st, we got Dune Part 2, baby.
Dune Part 2.
Maudie.
And Madam Web.
Madam Web.
Madam Web. That's next week. I think that's a Valentine's Day special.
Comes out the same day as Bob Marley, so that's going to be a great.
That is going to, man.
I'm going to suck up all my AMC in one day.
Yeah, honestly, just don't even try to park. Just honestly, take an Uber. You're not even going to find a parking space anywhere in that area.
Remember Oppenheimer Barbie? This is gonna
this is going to be way more. Yeah,
this is going to be
Madam Marley.
Madam Marley. Yeah, Madam Marley.
Madam Marley, one web.
That's great. That's fucking great.
I might actually just do that.
Yeah.
I do think just to bring the episode to a close, I do think our next episode, I don't think we're gonna have one next week, but I think in 2 weeks, I think we are gonna talk about Madam Web, because I'm really curious. I think we're gonna talk about. I think we're gonna talk about Lisa Frankenstein, and I want to really talk about, and I'm hoping I can get a lady on for it, because it's been a sausage fest recently, and but I guess technically this is an issue that stems beyond just male and female, and it stems to all of that intersectional stuff, which is great. Why we have a bunch of white people here, and which is like the people who criticize like a movie like The Marvels because of its commercialism and its blockbusterness and that kind of stuff, versus the people who criticize it because like, ooh, I don't like how Brie Larson said that thing about male critics years ago, and like that whole thing. So I think that's going to be in 2 weeks, but I'm not sure exactly. I know in 3 weeks on the 28th, we're going to do Twin Peaks Club, volume 2,
remainder of season 1,
the remainder of season 1, and I know after that is Dune and the Oscars, and I know we're definitely going to do an episode about. I want to do an episode about Drive-Away Dolls and Joel Cohen's The Tragedy of Macbeth. Cohen versus Cohen, because it's really interesting to get to. It's like unprecedented almost, like to be able to see like a directing team that have worked together for so long, that are so intrinsically tied together, and then for them to make stuff apart from each other and get to see like what are those things and what are the differences, like what are these two directors bringing to like their stuff together.
Well, I'll be interested to see where, like, will we actually see, like, we only obviously see them work together in films, what it'll be like to their different nuances, because I know, like, obviously I've only seen the Driveway trailer. That feels very like Raising Arizona and that kind of vibe. And you know, I'm interested to see like how the difference of the filmmaking style. It's going to be a little hard because they may just be trying to do something different.
Yes.
But to see if we pick up on some of the nuances that maybe you can see how when they work together, what favors the other, you know, for the way they create.
Having seen Tragedy of Macbeth and having seen the trailers for Drive Away Dolls, it definitely more and more, it makes sense to me that at the beginning of their career, Joel was the director and Ethan was the first credited writer. Because like that's kind of the vibe I'm getting. But we'll see.
We shall see.
But I also want to thank Brian for composing our outro, and you should follow us, CinemaCurse666, on TikTok, on Instagram. Share this with. I'm not gonna make that joke.
See, you got the self-awareness filter at least. It's good.
Go to your Poor Things. That's what I'll do. I was gonna do a zone of interest related one. I was like, that seems a little distasteful.
That's where you were headed. Yeah.
Share this with your local physician. You know, just go to your like local surgeon, local MD, whoever you go see, and be like, hey, check out this episode and see what they think. And
also make flyers for church. When you go to church, just hand out flyers. Let's say Cinema Curse 666.
Yeah. But yeah, thank you guys for joining, and I'll see you. Bye, everybody. Goodbye, citizens. Bye.
See you guys later.